Hello and welcome to the Lady Sows. I realised it's quite a while since I did a tour of the allotment, so I thought today might be a good day. You can see lots of fluffy clouds behind me. It's quite windy again as usual, so let me turn you round. We're going to start here. This is my husband's dahlia bed, which he plants up every year with all different coloured dahlias. Got it wrong last year and all we had was predominantly yellow, which I wasn't too chuffed about because these are for cutting at home. So in the background you can just see some sweet peas that are beginning to come into flower. They've been very slow. I think that cold snap we had really held them back. So next to them is this globe artichoke plant. I mean, it's absolutely magnificent. I've had it ever since I had the allotment. It was one of the first things I planted. I originally had 5. This is the only one that survived, so fair play to it. Moving on here, I've got Greek soup beans growing. These will be dried beans. They're really nice and they have a butter bean sort of taste to them, but they don't start really ripening much before October. I've also planted a couple of squashes in here. You can see some weeds, mainly because I'm just running out of space for where they should go. I oversowed. I gave some away as well. The rhubarb bed is absolutely amazing. I've not really picked any this year because it's only its second year. So I really wanted it to get established, and it has certainly done that. It's certainly got well established. So hopefully next year I'll be able to pick it. Now this is my polytunnel tent. We're not allowed polytunnels or greenhouses or sheds, or actually what we are allowed you could put back on the back of a postage stamp. But anyway, I do want to put another thickness round, but this is where I've planted all my peppers and chilies. I've got some lettuces there in the background. These are my giant onions. Some are looking better than others. I stuck a couple of tomatoes in here because once again I'd oversown and I've ended up having to give a couple of the peppers away as a result. But anyway, although it's been cool and we're going to have a couple of cool nights, I think nighttime temperature's looking about 8 degrees for a couple of nights. The weather towards the end of the week and into the weekend is looking likely to warm up. Moving on, this is my climbing bean bed, another one. These are borlotti beans at this end, and these are runner beans at that end. And I have to say, I'd say probably one of my favourite vegetables is runner beans. I don't think you can beat a plate of runner beans slathered in butter and black pepper. I'm growing my tomatoes outdoors this year. We'll see whether that's a mistake or not come the end of the season. I can't remember how many varieties, but all sorts of different varieties here. These are all the cordon ones, and they've actually grown. They've been in the ground 2 weeks and they have grown a huge amount in those 2 weeks. And these tomatoes here are the bush variety, determinate variety. I'm growing potatoes in tubs this year in amongst the weeds. This is an area that needs really looking at. I've got 3 varieties of potatoes. I've got Jazzy, which is a second early. Then I've got Java, and I can't remember the third one, which are all main crop potatoes, and they're blight resistant. These are my overwintered red onions, which are planted as sets. Quite a lot of them bolted, so they've all been removed, and chopped up and are now in the freezer. I much prefer to sow from seed, but I haven't been able to find red onion seed for winter sowing, for overwinter sowing. So if anybody knows of a variety, can you please let me know? And I've planted swede in here, interplanted them amongst the onions, because the onions will be over by the end of June, and that will then leave the space for the swede to grow on. Under here I've got garlic, which you've seen before, and an awful lot of weed. These will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. They're beginning to get rust on them, which is normal nowadays. Usually find I have to take them out about the middle of June. It'll be interesting to see how well the plants have grown. Some of them from my own saved seed, some I bought, and I've had to keep the netting on because I've sowed carrots. So once I can actually get all of the nets off, get the garlic out, weed all of this, the elephant garlic will stay in another couple of weeks. I picked all the scapes off of those, which were very nice. I sauteed them in butter and then added spinach, which was lovely. These, it's been very, very windy. These are my Blau shocker peas, which seed I got from a friend, and they're beginning to put little purple pods, which is what they do. And but the pea inside is green, and I just need to tie these back up because they are, as I say, the wind prevails that way, and it has been very, very windy. I've got in this bed here, I've got Brussels sprouts, and then in the middle I've got French beans. These ones I planted a few weeks ago. These ones I planted yesterday, so they're going to take a little while to fill out. And I've got some snapdragons at the end of the bed. This bed here has got all sorts in. So we've got beetroot here, early sown beetroot. Some of that is ready to come out now. We'll be harvesting it in the next week or so. Fennel, I've harvested lots of fennel. I grew two varieties of fennel, one called Perfecton, and the other, what was the other one called? Let's have a quick look. Mantanova is that one there, and they're quite small. The Perfecton were quite a decent size, not massive, because at this time of the year you don't want them leaving them to grow massive because it's their season to start bolting and setting seed. Next to them is Madania spinach, which I have allowed to go to seed because I want to collect the seed from it. And then here I've got more beetroot. I've got golden beetroot at this end, and then red beetroot at this end, and this is going to be carrots for autumn and winter. These onions are Sturon from my own saved seed, and I'm so pleased with them. You'll remember I planted these a few weeks ago. I'm not sure of the exact date. I can put it up and tell you, but these are looking amazing. These will store. These are my storing onions for overwinter. At long last, I've planted up this bed. In here I've got all the squashes are crown prince, and I've interplanted with sweet corn as part of the three sisters, but I'm only doing two of them. I'm hoping that they will get some shelter from this hedge here, double-edged sword, the hedge. But anyway, so these I put in that hot bank holiday weekend, and they're doing really well. Now this are my flower borders, and the alliums have now gone over, as have the Linaria. The Linaria is like a weed, so this bed will be cleared, and I'm not putting anything else in it because last year the pumpkins just sprawled all over it and killed the plants off, so there's not a lot of point. This bed, on the other hand, I am going to be planting up once I've weeded it and got rid of the grass, because the grass has been such a pain. I'm intrigued as to what that is. No doubt when it comes into flower I'll know. All these foxgloves self-seeded. more Lanaria. So as I say, this next couple of weeks, this is all going to be cleared. But I've been really concentrating on trying to get vegetables in the ground. I'd love to know what that flower is, because obviously something I might have grown last year that seeded itself, which is very nice. This is where I've got peas. These are Hurst green shaft peas. Bit disappointed with these. They should be up to the top of this frame, and they're very short. I know at this end they compete with this hedge over here, but the other end, I just don't know why they haven't grown. Maybe it was due to that hot weather that we had. It was dry. We did have a lot of rain last night, I've noticed. So peas are beginning to set on this, just the one I can see there. These are my Oscar peas, a very early pea. They were sown on the 14th of February and planted out at the end of March. And I took a harvest from them yesterday. So they're really coming along. So these will be over probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks, although I am saving seed from these for next year. These are my broad beans, and broad beans are beginning to set on here, albeit they're quite small still because they were late going in. I'm no longer sowing in the autumn because our autumns are getting too warm, and they are getting too big before the winter sets in, and so they're not surviving. So I'm going to be probably sowing them in future, either in December or January, and planting them out quite early under fleece. They are winter hardy, so that's not a problem. It's a variety called Acqua Dolce. These are my overwintered sensu onions, and I have just interplanted cabbages. They'll be finished by the end of the month. Onions will come out, and then there'll be all that space then for the cabbages. So that kind of works quite well, because at this time of now there's such a premium for land because the beds are quite full. So these are my strawberries. Now I bought 4 varieties of strawberries: earlies, mid and late season, and I was advised when I bought them that I would have them from 60 days from planting right through to November. But as far as I can see, they're all coming on at the same time. So I'm not letting any runners set this year because they are only new plants. Over here are some more squashes and pumpkins, these, and a different variety of sweet corn. And I've got this net over here because whilst the other ones are sheltered by the peas, these have got no shelter at all from here. The wind just howls down here. So that net's over them just for a couple of weeks, just to let them bed in. Now I had this bed earmarked for other things. I think I still might be able to get 1 or 2 in that I want. I want to grow sweet potatoes in this, and I've chosen a variety that apparently you can grow outdoors in the UK. Now whether you can grow them outdoors in the UK this far north, I've got no idea. Anyway, the slips are coming along marvellously, but apart from these 2 rows here, these are volunteers. And I've let them grow because I'm really not very good at destroying plants. But this needs a thorough weed, it's terrible. This bed here has got all sorts in. These are red onions. I love red onions. Don't always have a huge amount of success with red onions, but I do love red onions. These 2 little plants here are tomatillos for making salsa. And then predominantly there's a row of radishes which need harvesting, and these are celeriac, which I've interplanted with leeks. And I haven't finished the interplanting because not all the leeks were ready. So I'll be putting them in as they become available. I only sow and plant winter leeks. I don't use leeks in the autumn. So these will sit in the ground over winter, and predominantly they'll be harvested in the spring. Finally, this bed I planted up very early on with brassicas. They've got cauliflower, summer cabbages. I've got a pumpkin in there because I ran out of space anywhere else. I've got calabrese in here. I think I got the plants a bit mixed up. I try and keep them together if I can. So I've got 2 calabrese here. That's quite a good head coming along. I harvested one yesterday for tea. And then we've got cabbages and these lettuces that need harvesting. These have been in since early spring, so they'll be about ready to come out soon. That cabbage there looks like it's beginning to heart up nicely. So that's a quick tour of my allotment. Everything is now growing really well, particularly the weeds, and I'm harvesting things really regularly now. Lots of things will be coming out in the next few weeks, and I've got plants at home ready to sort of poke in the ground wherever I get space now, because everything's been earmarked for what I want to grow where, and it's just a case of, as the particularly brassicas come along, we seem to eat a lot of vegetables in the brassica family, I will just poke plants in, as I say, where I get some space. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and I hope to catch you another time. Bye for now. Bye.